It's 9:15 inches the morning, and 4-year-old Sophie is sitting at a desk in a reception classroom in Birmingham. Her feet don't touch the floor. In front of her is a phonics worksheet. She is being asked to circle the words that begin with the ch sound. She is 4. She cannot tie her own shoelaces. She still calls her grandmother Gamma. And right now, according to the early years foundation stage curriculum, she is expected to be decoding written language. 6,000 miles away, a 6-year-old Finnish boy named Aapo is standing in a forest. It is -3 degrees. He is wearing snow trousers and thick mittens. His teacher is showing him how to identify animal tracks in the snow: fox, hare, elk. He is not learning to read. He won't learn to read for another year. He won't sit behind a desk for another year. Right now, at this moment, his job is to be outside, to move his body, to notice the world, to play. Here's the question that should keep every British parent awake at night. When Aapo is 15, he will sit an international exam called PISA, the Program for International Student Assessment. It measures reading, mathematics, and science across 79 countries. Finland consistently ranks among the top performers in the world. Britain ranks somewhere in the middle, and the child who started formal reading instruction 3 years later, who spent those 3 extra years playing in the snow instead of circling phonics sounds, will score higher in reading comprehension than the child who started at 4. That is not speculation. That is data, and it flies in the face of everything most British parents have been told. Here's where the research begins. In 2009, a doctoral researcher at the University of Otago in New Zealand, named Sebastian Suggate, published a study that should have made front-page headlines. He compared 2 groups of children. Group 1 had started formal reading instruction at age 5, the standard in New Zealand, and nearly identical to Britain's system. Group 2 had started at age 7. These children attended Rudolf Steiner schools, where formal literacy instruction is deliberately delayed, and the early years are devoted to oral, storytelling, movement, art, and play. Suggate followed both groups until they were 11 years old. By age 11, both groups read at exactly the same level. There was 0 academic advantage to starting earlier. None. The 3-year head start had completely evaporated. The brain caught up, but here's the critical part, the part that changes the entire conversation. The children who started at 5 had developed less positive attitudes towards reading. They enjoyed it less. And this is the finding that stopped me cold. Their reading comprehension was actually worse than the children who started later. They could decode the words on the page at the same level, but they understood them less deeply. I think about that for a moment. The early starters had spent 3 additional years being formally taught to read, 3 extra years of worksheets and phonics drills and sitting at desks with feet that didn't touch the floor. And at the end of those 3 extra years, they were no better at the mechanical skill of reading and measurably worse at the one thing that actually matters: understanding what they read. Suggate replicated his findings in 2013. Then the University of Cambridge weighed in. In September 2013, 130 early childhood experts, developmental psychologists, neuroscientists, education researchers, signed an open letter, published in the Daily Telegraph. The campaign was called Too Much, Too Soon. Their demand was simple: delay the start of formal schooling in England until age 7. The letter was coordinated by Dr. David Whitebread, a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Education at Cambridge. Whitebread published a review of the evidence: anthropological, psychological, neuroscientific, and educational, and every single strand pointed in the same direction. Here is what that evidence shows. Play is not a break from learning. Play is the mechanism through which young children's brains develop the architecture they need for learning. Neuroscientific studies demonstrate that playful activity triggers synaptic growth in the frontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for all uniquely human higher mental functions: planning, self-regulation, working memory, impulse control. When a 4-year-old builds a tower of blocks and it falls over, and she tries again with a wider base, her brain is doing something far more sophisticated than any phonics worksheet can stimulate. She is learning cause and effect. She is learning persistence. She is learning to regulate the frustration of failure. Those skills are not peripheral to academic achievement. They are the foundation on which all future academic achievement is built. Physical play, running, climbing, balancing, develops the vestibular system and core strength that allow a child to sit still at a desk later. Construction play develops spatial reasoning, which is directly correlated with later mathematical ability. Pretense play develops symbolic representational skills, the understanding that one thing can stand for another, which is the cognitive bedrock of literacy. A stick becomes a sword, a scribble becomes a letter, a sound becomes a word. You cannot accelerate this progression by skipping steps. The brain builds itself in sequence. The Cambridge Review also documented something alarming. Over the second half of the 20th century, children's opportunities for free play declined dramatically, replaced by structured activities, screen time, and, in the case of England, increasingly early formal instruction. And over that same period, indicators of childhood stress, anxiety, and mental health problems rose in near-perfect parallel. Correlation is not causation, but when you compare countries that preserved play-based early childhood education with countries that abandoned it, the pattern holds. Enter Finland. Finland does not begin formal schooling until the August of the year a child turns 7. Before that, from birth through age 6, the Finnish early childhood education system is built around one principle: play, purposeful play, teacher-guided play, outdoor play, free play. The national curriculum for early years states explicitly that play is the primary method of learning, and that formal academic instruction has no place before age 7. Children in Finnish daycare and preschool spend significant portions of their day outdoors, in all weather. They build dens. They whittle sticks with vegetable peelers. They climb trees. They negotiate the social dynamics of group play without adult interference unless safety is at stake. They learn to dress themselves for -15-degree weather because no one will do it for them. They develop something the Norwegians call friluftsliv, a relationship with the outdoors that is not recreational but foundational. Then, at age 7, they enter formal school. And within 3 years, the reading gap between Finnish children and British children, who started 3 to 4 years earlier, has vanished completely. By age 15, Finnish students are performing at or above British students in reading, mathematics, and science. The PISA 2022 results tell the story. Finland scored 484 inches mathematics. England scored 489. Statistically indistinguishable. But here is what the numbers don't show. Finnish children achieved that near parity while spending fewer hours in school per day, receiving virtually no homework at primary level, and taking no standardized tests until the matriculation examination at age 18, no SATs, no phonics screening check at age 5, no 11+, or no GCSEs at 16. The entire apparatus of high-stakes testing that defines British education simply does not exist in Finland. British children are working harder, starting earlier, sitting more tests, and waking up at a younger age to an alarm clock. And the academic return on that investment is statistically indistinguishable from a country where 6-year-olds are still identifying fox tracks in the snow. This is the counterintuitive truth at the heart of the Finnish experiment. Less formal instruction in the early years does not produce less learning. It produces the same learning, achieved more efficiently, with lower stress, higher motivation, and, crucially, better mental health outcomes. Finland has one of the lowest rates of childhood anxiety and depression in the developed world. Britain's childhood mental health statistics, by contrast, are a national emergency. As of 2023, 1 in 5 children and young people in England had a probable mental health disorder, up from 1 in 9 in 2017. Now, no single factor explains this. The causes are complex and interconnected. But when the Cambridge researchers drew the line between declining play and rising stress, they were not speculating. They were documenting a pattern that multiple longitudinal studies have confirmed. So the question a British parent watching this is probably asking right now is, what do I do with this information? I can't change the school's starting age. I can't move to Finland. My 4-year-old is going to start reception in September, and phonics worksheets are coming whether I like it or not. Here's what the research says you can do. The protective factor, the thing that buffers children against the pressure of early formal instruction, is the quality of play they get outside of school. Not structured enrichment activities, not educational apps, not Kumon maths at the kitchen table. Free, unstructured, child-led play, preferably outdoors, preferably with other children, preferably every single day. The Finnish model works not because schools are magical, but because the entire culture values childhood as a developmental stage in its own right, not merely as preparation for adulthood. Finnish parents do not see the early years as a race to be won. They see them as a foundation to be laid, slowly, carefully, without shortcuts. And when that foundation is solid, the academic structure built on top of it rises faster and stands stronger than anything constructed in a hurry. The Suggate data proves this at a neurological level. The brain that learns to read at 7 does not learn to read more slowly. It learns to read more efficiently because the neural architecture for language, for attention, for self-regulation is already in place. The brain that learns to read at 4 is fighting its own developmental timeline. The frontal cortex isn't ready. The attentional systems aren't mature. The child may appear to be reading, sounding out the words, passing the phonics check, but the comprehension, the joy, the deep engagement with text that predicts a lifetime of reading is not there. And by age 11, the gap in comprehension favors the later reader. This is neuroscience. This is not opinion. The Cambridge Primary Review put it bluntly. There is no evidence that children benefit from an earlier start to formal schooling, and it may undermine their desire to learn. Read that again. The one thing that predicts academic success more than any other variable, intrinsic motivation, the genuine desire to learn, is the very thing that early formal instruction appears to damage. Most British parents reach for the same assumption. It feels instinctive. Earlier must be better. More instruction must produce more learning. If you want children to be smarter, start teaching them sooner. Push harder. Don't let them fall behind. And according to 5 decades of research across multiple countries and disciplines, that assumption is exactly wrong. The foundation is bigger than the curriculum. And the Chase, U0069LD, who spends the first 7 years of life playing, is not falling behind. They are building the only brain that can truly catch up. If you want to go deeper on how the Finnish approach to early childhood shapes not just academic outcomes, but emotional resilience and mental health across the lifespan, that video is right here. So here is the question I want to leave you with. If you are a parent of a young child in Britain right now, what is one thing you could subtract from their week instead of adding? What is one structured activity, one worksheet, one enrichment session you could replace with an hour of undirected play in a park or a garden or even a living room floor? Because the evidence from Finland, from New Zealand, from Cambridge, from the neuroscience labs, it all says the same thing. Your child does not need more instruction. Your child needs more time, more play, more boredom, more space to figure out how the world works without someone explaining it to them first. The Finnish 6-year-old in the forest isn't missing anything. She's getting everything she needs. And when the phonics test comes, 3 years later than her British peer, she will not have fallen behind. She will have caught up before the test even begins, because her brain has been preparing for this moment since the very beginning, not through instruction, but through the only pathway that actually works. Which of these feels hardest for you to believe? That early reading instruction doesn't help long term. That play is more educational than worksheets. That Finland gets better results with later start, fewer hours, and no standardized tests. Tell me in the comments. I read every single one in the first 24 hours.